Welcome! You are listening to the CRM Success Show, where you will hear from CRM executives who have overseen some of the most interesting and complex CRM implementations. Your hosts, David Masri and Kira Whitey, will be bringing you real stories, real insight. Follow along on social media for updates on new episode releases, exclusive content, and much more. Enjoy the show, and thanks for listening.
Welcome to the CRM Success Show, where we deep dive into CRM success and failure, delivering real stories with real impact. I'm Dave Masri.
And I'm Kira Whitey.
And today we're talking with Phil Ryan, the VP of Operations Technology at Flexo Concepts. So welcome, Phil.
Hi, thank you guys. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, Phil. So we've got a lot of ground to cover today. Thank you for joining us. If we could just start with a quick couple-minute intro in terms of your background, experience, and what your current kind of title includes today, please.
Yeah, sure. So, my title is VP of Operations and Technology at Flexo Concepts. We are a small business manufacturer. We have 25 employees. Half of them are out making product here in the United States. We ship all around the world. The product that we make is it's a niche product. It's called the Doctor Blade. It's like an industrial scraper blade used in wiping applications. Like the best example in our biggest market is selling to commercial printers who do food packaging and things like that. The blade is used in controlling ink film thickness. It's also used in lithium-ion battery. That's a big growth place for us right now. And I've been at the company for 15 years. I started out in customer service, picking up the phone, entering orders, and I've been through a number of roles over the years. So, we are a Salesforce first org, just philosophically. A lot of that is that vision is driven by one of the owners, my boss, Greg Howell, who's president at Flexo Concepts, and we run our whole business on the platform. So when we say that, we mean it. It's paperless manufacturing. And we have our ERP and accounting on the Certinia app from the App Exchange, formerly Financial Force. We use products like Bring for our shipments. So everything that we're doing in our day-to-day, it's all run on Salesforce, including, our customer interactions. We have an e-commerce platform that I built called FC Marketplace that is maybe a unique application in its own right. It's made completely out of Salesforce screen flows embedded on a community or digital experience that our customers log into, and they get real-time access to the same data that our team has served up from Salesforce about their orders, things like that.
Super cool. Now, in terms of volume, you have around 18,000 SKUs, correct?
It's funny. I checked that the other day, and we actually are closing in on 21,000.
Wow.
The product that we make, it's made to order. It's very customizable. These blades are just kind of a configurable item. So there's different materials and different combinations of dimensions, which ultimately are infinite. And so, 21,000 SKUs.
And how much did your personal kind of passion for the space and being a creative, hands-on, woodworker influence kind of your time in the business with Flexo Concepts? It's similar industries, right?
Yeah, very similar. I just have a passion for solving problems personally, and I've always said in terms of my role in the business, we could be selling anything. That's not really what's important to me. What our product is, it's great that it's such a stable industry and it provides a lot for our employees. But what is interesting to me is the operational excellence and the way that we do business and how we do it. And everybody thinks their business is unique. There aren't that many. There actually are other plastic doctor blade manufacturers in the world. We have competitors, but businesses all have the same problems, and the tools that are used to solve those problems. They're fun to work on. So that's my passion.
So give us a quick timeline in terms of Salesforce. You went live in 2016, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So at that time, I was really in a supportive role, and excuse me. At that time, I was really in a supportive role, and I was helping with some data prep, things like that. We went live with Certinia in 2018, October 2018, and that I had a leading role. So, in the interim, I got involved just learning Salesforce. We needed an admin. It came from a Sage, on-premise networked ERP, just classic software, and just going back to my colleague Greg, he had this vision that getting all the data connected was what mattered, right? And so that's the goal that we pursued initially, was trying to get all of our ERP data and our CRM data in the same place. So we had an integration passing Sage data into Salesforce, and then we kind of wanted to push it the other way, and you realize having the data visible isn't really all that counts. So we went big on what was then Financial Force, now Certinia. So I led with we did have an implementation partner who helped us, but I led the data aspects of it, and then from the point of the keys being turned, I've kind of owned the management and maintenance and customization of that solution on our platform. So we were paperless within 2 months of going live. By the end of that year, we were paperless.
Awesome. So for those of us who don't know, like myself, what exactly is Certinia?
Yeah, so Certinia is a lot of things.
Force.
Financial Force became Certinia. And they're a PSA solution more than anything. But they have kind of what I think they would consider a legacy product called Order Inventory Management. And that is for businesses like mine to maintain stock, to create purchase orders, just all of those types of things that you need to do to run like a practical goods in, goods out type of business. So it includes a lot of functionality that we don't really use. We've really optimized it around our business needs, and kind of simplified and streamlined the way that is out of the box. And then we've built a lot on top of it. But it's a great platform, and their accounting software is also great. But they don't identify as an accounting and ERP. They identify PSA first. It's a great team, though.
But you did move off of Sage onto, I guess, Financial Force. And
That's
then
right.
Certinia is an upgrade on that, or is just a rebranding?
Just a rebranding, some kind of acquisition recently. I think they just got investment that was added, and did a rebranding in conjunction.
Yeah. So for our listeners who don't know, Financial Force, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you're probably closer to this than I am, right, is not owned by Salesforce. They're an ISV that puts out, I get the PSA. It's not a.
That's right. It's a really complex managed package. So, gosh, we have over 1,000 custom objects in our org, and I've made quite a few of them, but not over 1,000. They're mostly part of the Certinia managed package. Inventory positions, sales order line items, all the accounting transactions, budget stuff, all that lives inside of custom objects on Salesforce. And it's, in theory, it's if you had enough time and resources, you could do it yourself. You could create all those objects and the automations that connect them. And at the time we went live, we weren't, mature enough to even think about doing something like that. I think accounting is so important and rigid that I wouldn't trust anyone but a professional. Like Accounting Seed is another player in that space. They've got a great product for doing accounting on platform. The ERP is a little different depending on how simple your business is. We could probably build it today if we had a time machine, we might do that.
Back in the day, believe it or not, I actually used to build custom ERPs before I got into the CRM space.
Oh, okay, that's good.
So I know you guys like are all in on Salesforce, right? So you started, I guess, with the accounting piece, I assume sales and marketing, and then you're also now incorporated your manufacturing in there, connected to machinery, running your lines. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so just backing up a little, yeah, we have Sales and Service Cloud. We use account engagement, formerly Pardot. That's our marketing solution from Salesforce. We have a number of other applications that are important to our business that are smaller, whether they're from Salesforce, feature-wise, or ISVs from the App Exchange. But yeah, what after building FC Marketplace, this e-commerce solution, we decided it was time to start rebuilding a manufacturing execution system on platform. So at the time that we were integrated with Sage into Salesforce, we in those early days we were integrating to a custom built application that we call Production Tracker. And what that allows is order data from Salesforce to pass over to our manufacturing team in a web application. So that was part of our paperless transition. They were able to manage tickets virtually instead of with pieces of paper floating around all over the shop as you try to manage your work. And so fast forward to today, we're rebuilding that as a product that we call Workbench. So that's an application that I'm building. It's all clicks, not code. I'm not a developer, so it's kind of funny where I have a personal intersection, but I'm leading other people on the team who are contributing to that. We've had interns who have helped build out little micro applications that are a part of it. And the whole premise is that our manufacturing team will be able to log directly into Salesforce and manage their work using information displayed on those screens, in Salesforce. And it's not to say it will control the equipment directly. They're operators, they're controlling the equipment. We have a lot of proprietary homegrown, home-built equipment that runs as you can imagine, there's not all these Doctor Blade equipment, manufacturing builders. We have to make what we need. And so the types of automation that they have are mechanical, not digital, right? That's maybe a future state that we could control the machines. That's not where we are today. So it's really just about getting the operators the information they need to do their work.
Awesome. So you said before, right? These are all custom products, right? So every build is custom. I mean, that's kind of why it's not like you can have like an assembly line where you keep doing the same repetitive, right? So these are very, I guess they need the instructions per order, I would say. And then, are these like they're creating not one piece? I assume they're creating what, several dozen at a time?
Yeah, so the form factor of these blades, they're not complex. We're really more of a converter than a manufacturer. So we're not like buying and assembling pieces that become a Doctor Blade. We're taking, coils of plastic and applying an edge to them that makes it suitable for wiping. And so, we think in terms of linear feet, right? So we have just lots and lots of linear feet moving. Products do pass through different routing steps, like a product may need to be sized to a correct width at one area and have a bevel applied to it so it wipes in another area. And then maybe it needs to be cut to a finished length rather than being sold as a coil. So there's different routing steps, and different types of plastic require different equipment that we process it on. And all of that is managed through that tool. We have a lot of automation. So as we think about those 21,000 SKUs, we add at least 10 every single day. And and that process is highly automated with flows. There's no requirement that someone on our team even knows that a product has been sold before or not. In the course of their work, the flow decides, hey, this is a new SKU, I need to build it, and then all that. I don't want to say it happens by magic, because there's nothing magic about it. But as far as a user on our team in customer service or sales would know, parts just appear and are ready. That configuration, the pricing, we've built our own pricing algorithm to operate. So it's a lot of fun stuff.
So when you're designing this, right, obviously you want to continually improve the process. So when you think of continuous improvement, which I know you're big on, you're not necessarily just talking about software, right? You're talking about the manufacturing process too, right? And then are you driving that from within Salesforce, or you're driving the process, figure out a process that works, then back into the software? You tell us how you go about that.
Yeah, no, continuous improvement, I think to any manufacturer is or should be, the center of their business and culture. And it certainly is the center of ours. That and really innovation, we think of those two things together. And so we have, for example, we have a whole application that's built out just to collect ideas from all of our employees. You can think of it kind of like a virtual suggestion box. And it's built on Salesforce. It creates cases of a certain record type that designates them as a continuous improvement idea. And then we have a whole methodology to go through a review and either implement or dispense them. So even that level of communication and thinking, it's all captured and tracked on Salesforce. Is that?
Yeah. So is there a concern that you have a software bug and that like wrecks batches of physical manufacturing inventory? Right? Or your user is like smart enough to say, no, that's just wrong, I'm not doing that.
Well, yeah, I mean, and as AI comes along, those types of concerns are even more important. But no, we have lots of humans in the loop. There's nothing that's going to be made without an operator looking at it and having to set up a machine to produce it, right? So we track all of our quality issues very closely, and they get attributed down to the person who ultimately made a mistake that caused it to happen. And one of those people is automation error. So we track issues that are for the result of automation errors. It's one of the ways that we keep track of and improve the automations themselves. So mistakes do occur, right? Shipping methods get altered in ways they shouldn't be. But in terms of like producing an enormous amount of incorrect product, there are enough people involved with a lot of experience who would be able to intervene there. Just a point, we're 25 people, and I think our average tenure in the building is like 8 years, but in manufacturing, we have guys who are coming up on 25 years, 25 years. I've been with the company 15 years. We have a lot of experience in the building, and the humans are as important as the technology. We're not using Salesforce and its automation capability to displace people. It's about making the work faster and simpler and easier to understand. That's what continuous improvement is. We want the job to be enjoyable, to be hard to make mistakes. People don't like to do that, right? And so and our customers don't want that experience. We have, what an NPS score is, Net Promoter Score. Yeah. We have an NPS of 90 right now, which is pretty hard to believe. I mean, I think some telecoms companies have negative NPS scores, and an excellent NPS score would often be considered like in the 30s or 40s or 50. And we're, we get that that reputation and that satisfaction from our customers and our employees through this type of work. So just a rant.
So in terms of continuous improvement, because I think it's important to establish what exactly that is. In essence, it's all about saving time, creating a better product, becoming marginally better on a weekly, monthly basis, right? It's not transformative, changing the rule book, becoming 100% better overnight, right? It's fine margins, small gains, but regular gains. So you mentioned you built your own methodology. Why not use like Lean Six Sigma or, I don't know, Kanban or something like that to help you with continuous improvement? Do you use aspects of that methodology and incorporate it into your version, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't mean that we have a version of continuous improvement. We just have a tracking system on platform we use to manage it. But no, we do lots of training. With our staff, we use grants from the state. We're in Plymouth, Massachusetts, so we use grants from the state to train people on all kinds of aspects of continuous improvement, formal trainings and methodologies. We do use Kanban methods to manage our inventories. We do use, some Shingo approaches. We have, our manufacturing manager is pursuing some certification in Lean. So we take Lean to heart, and that's a part of what we do. In terms of what continuous improvement is, you're right. It is small incremental changes, and not necessarily just for the sake of changing, right? That's not the intent. Although it does require a culture that accepts change, right? Because to be continuously improving over time, things are incrementally, they are always in small ways changing, little things every day. How can this be faster, better? But that's where we value innovation too, because there is an opportunity to be transformative, and we're not afraid as a business to stick our neck out on long bets, right? That we think will have big payoffs, but may fail. The willingness and acceptance of failure is part of that experience and journey, and it's important to us as well.
So let me ask you this, because I'm sure this is a question people will juggle. How do you find the balance between ongoing improvement, continuous improvement, and the reality of just the daily BAU, keeping the lights on, operational demands, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, that's real and also a fallacy at the same time. There's kind of like there's a classic cartoon of cavemen like pushing a wheelbarrow with a square wheel, and the punchline is something like they don't have time to invent the wheel because they got to move whatever blocks they're doing, right? But taking the time to do that work and put a round wheel instead of a square wheel has huge impacts on the business. So we just take a tactical approach to it. We have meetings, operational teams that are focused on continuous improvement, that are focused on moving the needle and working through projects in their areas of discipline. And so I have a leading role in all of those teams as technology gets involved in those. They're not all technology based. There's all kinds of work in the business for improvement. But you just have to make the time, and you have to believe that it's worth it. Just philosophically, and this goes back to before I knew anything about Salesforce, I was spending a lot of time in Excel building formulas to try to solve problems. And I just always felt like I'd rather take 10 minutes to build a complex formula, even if I could do the work manually in 5, right? Because suddenly you have a tool that can be leveraged again and again, or at least a skill set. And so, short-term, losses like that for long-term gains, that's what's important. And so, we make the time, and there's always compromise, but
In terms of a percentage, Phil, what would you say your team and yourself are dedicating to continuous improvement versus operational projects, etc.? Do you carve out quarterly, monthly meetings specifically to talk about new initiatives that come under that kind of continuous improvement package or movement, project, initiative, whatever you want to call it? Or are you just kind of doing this as a, not even that detailed, it's just like, this is something that's ingrained in our culture and our DNA, and we're doing it every day, not like a set time, etc.?
yeah, I wouldn't say it's formal. We're not tracking the exact time spent one way or the other, but in marketing, for example, yeah, I mean, we got to make content, we got to have a calendar, we got to execute against that. There's journeys and campaigns to build and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, there's new technology that's worth understanding and studying, and we just have to make that part of our daily routine as well. And so, that's a team that I've been working with a lot over the past year or so, as we really try to dial in and refocus our efforts in marketing and making sure that we're using the right tools and technology to support that. Because you can just get out there and grind out posts and all that kind of stuff. But there's lots of exciting stuff out there. We're looking at this product, HeyGen AI, that makes really awesome translated videos. Like, you just do a recording and feed it in there, and it dubs over the mouth and translates it to the language of choice. You can refine it. That's important to us. We sell in over 70 countries around the world.
Wow.
And if we weren't always picking our head up and looking around and poking and prodding, we might miss products like that. So I've been to Dreamforce for the past 5 or 6. My boss Greg has been to probably 7 or 8. Our marketing manager has been to a couple. Our manufacturing manager has been to Dreamforce. I don't know how many people do that, but we invest in that so that people are getting exposed to those ideas. And again, you just take the time and give it. We've been to Inbound for HubSpot. That's a great product too. We don't use it, but even their event is inspirational for our team. They're great thought leaders in marketing. So whether it's conferences or other forms of education, that's important.
Let's talk a little bit more about being all in on Salesforce, because I know when we first spoke and met, that was something that you highlighted straight away, right? We're a business that pretty much fully embraces Salesforce across our company, and have done and will continue to do so. I'm curious, was there a particular decision point or turning moment for the business that led them to go down that path and fully commit to Salesforce and its exterior products that you've got integrated into your org?
Yeah, I mean, I think the experience that we had maintaining the integration between Sage and Salesforce, just, it made it clear. A metaphor or analogy I like to use a lot is like a thermometer versus a thermostat, right? The thermometer tells you the temperature. You can read it, you know what it is, and what do? Okay, it's cold out, it's hot out. The thermostat does that, but you also gives you control, right? Thermostat, you can move the temperature up, move it down. You can have settings, right? Programmable, and you can just make your environment the way you want it to be. And so, I think in terms of integrations, when you pull data in, for example, from your ERP into Salesforce, great. Salesforce has all these awesome reporting capabilities. You can display that stuff. How do we affect it, right? We don't want to just be looking at KPIs that are numbers that are disconnected from the action that is required by looking at those numbers, right? So Salesforce, I think, creates this unique opportunity when all the data is all in one place, and you can use these powerful automation capabilities to connect the dots between those. And that's what we do now. We build thermostats all day long. There isn't, a dashboard that we look at that doesn't drive action or isn't telling us about action that needs to be taken otherwise. Like, for example, we have these workspaces that are full of list views formatted as count cards. It's actually a feature from Certinia. It's just a little Lightning Web component that gives you a count of a list view. By the way, oh, hang on, you pet peeves of Salesforce. My God.
There you go, right on cue.
Yeah. Like, how about when you go to a list view, it tells you how many records are in it, right? Instead of you having to scroll down 200 at a time until it casts, or, you can make a chart on the side and that's take forever to load. So, list views are so helpful when you think of them as numbers that should be zero, right? We don't want any late orders. It should be zero. We don't want any unapproved orders that haven't gone off to manufacturing. It should be zero. So we have workspaces in all these different categories, and they're all list views of data that shouldn't exist, right? And that isn't an automation example, but that's a really powerful lever, and I think philosophy for managing work to be done. So now we have this informational space. But anyway, that's like a whole move away from the question. Like, all in on Salesforce, it's just about that power to have the data and to act on it and to explore it, to discover, ask questions. I mean, if you are a curious person, there's really no question about your business that you can't answer if the data is in Salesforce from a reporting perspective, or, with more custom solutions.
Mm-hmm. So obviously you talked a little bit about different parts of the business going to things like Dreamforce. Experiencing that event in itself is pretty cool, but being able to get access to these kind of conversations, new ideas, approaches, and so on, how much do you think, like, being all in on Salesforce has impacted positively collaboration across those departments like marketing, manufacturing, tech, sales, etc.? Does it help, do you think, being all in on Salesforce with just general kind of business objectives, goals? There's no kind of, this system doesn't talk to this system, we can't do this, and so on, because everyone's using Salesforce. It just is what it is.
Yeah, it certainly, it becomes part of the culture. It brings departments together into a common structure. Some are easier and more intuitive than others. Engineering is one that you might think, why would an engineer spend any time at all in Salesforce? And so, some people use it less than others, but we find, reasons to manage that. We're not looking and pulling the reasons out of thin air, but, again, just thinking creatively, the use cases are abundant. And so, drawing people in, and also how, I think when people use it and understand how customizable the solution is and the things that you can do with it, that's part of it too. Like, at a certain point, people start to get greedy. And it's a good thing. People get lazy. They're like, why would I have to do that when I know there's some way that it can just be automated and never happen again? I don't have to think about it. And that's an important part, is for people to, in our business, be aligned in thinking that way, like wanting that more, and it draws them in, and it's a great collaboration space. I know chatter is a dirty word these days, but we use chatter a lot We use Microsoft Teams instead of Slack.
Oof.
That's kind of not on platform, but Chatter is a great tool for us. We message in the context of the data that we're talking about. It's an outstanding tool. So hopefully they don't actually sunset that, which I think they talked about and maybe stalled.
Yeah, I think I don't want to say somebody viewed that as a competitor to Slack, and after the Slack acquisition, they just want to move everyone over onto Slack. I think that's the mindset. I'm not sure, but it's true. A lot of people really, really like Chatter,
Yeah.
and then some people just never use it or don't see it. So taking a step back, one of the things you mentioned is Salesforce is really powerful because you got the metadata there, you got the data, you got your workflow, and then you just got to take action on it. It's funny because one of the complaints you hear about Salesforce quite a bit is that the data is somewhat inaccessible. The reports have limitations to them. The data structure and SQL has limitation to it. Yeah, it's kind of a relational database, but there's like lots of nuance to it. So what are your tips on like really getting the most out of it? Like are you using a BI tool like CRMA or Tableau, or what are your tips there?
Yeah. We've used analytics on and off over the years. I think that's what Tableau Analytics now. It's like a lot of Salesforce products. It's had more than a few names. I think it was like Wave Analytics when we first got it or something like that. But I mean, analytics is an option. The tool could be easier to use and to configure, and we've stalled a lot on it for that reason. You can create these nice shiny dashboards, but it's pretty hard to set those up and manage just from personal experience. So we make do with creative use of just reports and dashboards as they are. There's not too much data that we want to visualize in a way that we can't, with the exception of maybe detailed financial data. And Certinia has a bunch of reporting capabilities built out to solve for that. So I get that aspect of it. The reporting and dashboarding could be a lot better. Like for example, you can't, like in Excel, if you have a date range that includes days where there's no values, they just won't display in Salesforce, right? It's kind of a basic limitation. I've been, I don't even think about it anymore. I guess I got used to that. Someday I'm sure they'll figure it out. But I agree with that. It can be limiting in that way. Recently I've started using actually SQL and Flow together to create some new reporting interfaces that do things you couldn't do any other way with screen reactivity. I've built an application we call Pulse. I had a little LinkedIn video that kind of demoed it, but it runs SQL queries to pull together a lot of data and very quickly presents it in pretty interesting and dynamic ways. It's been a great discovery tool for us to, we call it Pulse because it's like, measuring the pulse of it's like an account health type of tool. How many SKUs do they have that are becoming stagnant? What's at risk with this account? What's their revenue year over year? And it, you can, using reactivity in the screen flows, you can just click and it does a lot of cool stuff really fast. But that's a totally custom solution to solve that type of problem. And that's kind of the space we're in sometimes, is like, well, what can we do to, what skills do we have in the building to solve those problems in an outside the box kind of way?
Cool. I'm honestly surprised that you said you found CRM analytics difficult. It might just be a difference of mindset. So disclaimer, I was actually a CRM analytics ambassador for a few years. And then I guess I was rolled out of the program last year. So, I mean, I personally really like the product. I use it a ton. I think you just need to have more of a data engineer hat on, because the key to success with CRM analytics is designing the data model of CRM analytics, and forget what it looks like in Salesforce. And then it becomes like real easy to build
Yeah,
those
no, I
dashboards.
completely agree. I think that is the issue. Being able to imagine a new data structure and all that. It's like data cloud. You can do
Right.
some really cool and powerful transformations there, but you have to be able to think that way and then understand how to build it. And I see those as common limitations between those two products. Is the advertisement is that you don't need data scientists anymore. I'm like, well, I really think you kind of do. Because we've never wanted for one before until we got a data cloud subscription, and we're learning it. But as we try to build it as the foundation for AI, there's complex work that you need to do for it to actually be able to do things like make predictions. You can't just feed it a bunch of sales orders and then it says, oh, here's the ones that are going to be late. It can't do that. It needs information to correlate and train on. And so, my impression, the way that you do that is by joining, many objects together, like a large SQL join via their transformation, and then I think more often than not, you do have to feed it some binary information, like, is this an account who did it for it or not? So that it can understand all the other factors in the universe that might affect an account, a customer being lost, and being able to predict that. So it's a cool tool. Sorry, I know you're asking about analytics and I'm talking about data cloud, but
No, it's all good.
there's complexity there.
Yeah. So you've tried to implement Data Cloud. That was an actual use case. Predict who's going to pay late.
Who's going to, we want to see who's going to become a lost customer, not pay late, although that's a good use case too. I mean, there's a lot of good use cases. So we're a data cloud customer. We got on fairly early, I guess, over a year ago for sure, maybe 2 years ago. And we have primarily found use cases for it in marketing. Activating to external targets like LinkedIn, we can create segmentation lists of customers who meet certain criteria, have engagement that looks like X, Y, or Z, and we want to serve an ad to them on LinkedIn, for example. That's been fruitful for us. And then, getting it ready to use with AI or Agentforce is kind of the next frontier. Not that we would lead with Agentforce. I think we would lead with just being able to build predictions and leverage that in some way.
So tell me about that decision to buy any product, right? So in this case, we're talking to buy Data Cloud, right? Because you guys clearly seem to have a preference to in-house build as opposed to just buying a product off the shelf. Like, what's the thought process there? Because I think most people is the opposite, is they do not want to go custom, and you guys seem to just really, really thrive in that space, right? This is
I
your
think,
classic buy versus build decision, where usually buy wins.
I think to piggyback on that as well, Phil, with a second follow-up question to that, is there a criteria that goes into that decision-making process to build or buy? For example, you've got a lot of manufacturing mindset, right? Continuous improvement, Lean Six Sigma, etc. Is there if it's going to take us X amount of time to build something internally, we will look for a existing product on the market type analysis that goes into that piece that Maz said?
Yeah, unfortunately, that type of analysis isn't always possible or transparent. You can't know until you work with it what what the expenditure is going to be. I think, when I think about that decision, I'm most interested in buying capability, right? Data Cloud on its face is capability, right? Because we've been kind of anti-integration, but it's got all these connectors where kind of you're pushing the complexity of the integration to some extent to Salesforce and trusting that that they're going to build connections that pull it into the trust wall and make it less of your problem to manage a broken field or things like that. And it's not that I understood it as the foundation for. I don't know that Salesforce understood Data Cloud as the foundation for AI initially. I think they've had a lot of use cases for it over the years as it's been through different branding, different branded names. But yeah, that's it in a nutshell. It's like it used to be we bought products because we didn't have the capability to build those solutions. And just like the Excel formulas, when you put enough time in it, suddenly it becomes easier to scale and imagine how you'll approach challenges. And then you can kind of do some ROI and think about like, is it going to be better to buy and be tied to yet another SaaS bill that just recurs year after year, month after month? Or is it better to incur that one-time expense? Not that there isn't technical debt associated with it, but and have a solution that is tailored to our exact needs and which we ultimately have control over, and responsibility. That it's everything's a double-edged sword. But looking at products like the AI tools that Salesforce is offering and looking at Data Cloud and looking at Marketing Cloud growth, those are situations where I think we're buying capability for us to do new things and solve new problems, not just a solution.
It's interesting you mentioned Marketing Cloud growth because it's almost as if you knew, Phil, that is the next question I was going to ask you in terms of where we're going to move the conversation on. So Marketing Cloud growth was announced at the beginning of this year, I think around February time, if I'm correct. And I think competitive pricing was one of the biggest benefits, but also object alignment, data cloud mapping, et cetera, et cetera. Now, quite interesting and quite cool, you guys were invited, or were you invited? We'll talk about that in a second, about the Pioneer program. So do you want to tell us a little bit, Phil, about kind of what that Pioneer program meant exactly and where you're at so far with your journey with Marketing Cloud growth?
Yeah, the Pioneer program was really fun for us to participate in at times and stressful at others. We had become Data Cloud customers before that, and we're looking for these different use cases, and Data Cloud and Marketing Cloud growth go hand in hand with each other, because unlike Pardot or account engagement that uses synced, it's really not on platform, it's synced data to drive marketing campaigns and things like that. The premise of Marketing Cloud growth, it's driven by segmentation lists from Data Cloud. And so then, you can pull in all your web activities and email clicks and things there and process it in different ways and use it to make kind of more powerful, granular, focused, dynamic email engagements, for example. It does more than that. And so, we got the invite from Salesforce to participate in that. We were one of, it's mostly partners that they pulled into that program. But Salesforce was getting excited about some of our use cases. We try to stay close with them and be loud as a customer. And it's paid off for us over the years for the size that we are as a customer to them. We get a lot of attention and support. And I like to think that we do great things with the tool, and so it you know, it becomes a reciprocal thing. But yeah, the program was intensive. We were meeting 2 or 3
So
times a
before
week.
you jump into that, sorry to cut you off. Can you tell
Sure.
our listeners exactly what it is, the Pioneer Program?
Marketing Cloud Growth, or the Pioneer Program. Yes. So the Pioneer Program, and this particular program was targeted at account engagement users who would convert potentially to Marketing Cloud Growth. And it really was to test out functionality, just like beta users, really. I've participated in pilot programs with Salesforce before, and I think this was the first Pioneer program that was more in depth. It put, users and partners who might implement for others in direct contact with the product team who's trying to deliver something for people to use. So they were advertising a little ahead of their skis. I think that's what Salesforce does. So they kind of announced it, and the product, in many ways, was still being built. And even to this day, it's early in the product lifecycle. They're running at hard. So we had these 2 to 3 meetings a week where we were getting together with the leaders of the product team for this, and they were like, "Here's a hands-on. Here's how you deploy. Here's how you configure. Here's how you create." And so we walked step by step through the different features of Marketing Cloud Growth. And, we were literally creating tickets. We had a special channel within the Salesforce support team that was focused on this because, we were some of the first actual users of the product. And it, predictably, it didn't all work, right? So that's where the stressful part of it came through. It, compared to somebody who's picking up the product today, they're going to have a much more straightforward time. The way that the different data graphs and things that are built and data kits that power it had to be deployed at that time was very manual. It was complicated. And now I think you just click a button and it all just kind of happens. You go into setup and you switch a toggle and it just does everything kind of behind the scenes. But it wasn't like that. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of clicking. And so, it was fun. But, if they ask us again, I'll just make sure that we know what the product, we'll make sure we it's something we want to do. This definitely it was a cool experience.
It's funny, again, I was going to ask that question, would you do it again? But let me ask you a different question. So the idea, my understanding of the Pioneer program is it allows customers to feel like they're part of that journey in terms of developing a product, but also the purpose of it is, in essence, that you will do the testing and find the flaws, right, before it goes out to market at a broader scale. And I'm guessing there's some advantages that have flowed to you as a result, right, in terms of being a part of that Pioneer program. There must be some benefit to Flexo Concepts. So what is that benefit?
Yeah, I think the benefit was really, excuse me, I think the benefit was really more on the intangible side. We certainly got early access to see what they're thinking. We got to affect the shaping of the product in many ways. Suddenly we're getting on calls with people who are asking us like, "Hey, here's what the marketing calendar is going to look like. What do you want? Is this good? Is this bad?" So, there's just direct benefit there. But just from a relationship perspective and the access we got, that was, that was a lot of it. So I don't know. I mean, I definitely have the inside track on some things that I'm not sure if they've been announced yet or not. Like, I don't know that this is secret, but I think prospects are coming to core platform, which for marketers is a big thing to know and understand. So we do have a little insight, and the team was great to work with through and through. So supportive and appreciative of the partnership. Greg and I spoke at Connections, which is their marketing event in Chicago in May. I think we did a couple sessions talking about our use case. So we got to get a little brand exposure there. Not that in the Salesforce audience, just like from this podcast, there's not that many people who are going to know what a Doctor Blade is. And then we spoke again at Dreamforce, again talking about the ways we're using Data Cloud and the ways we're using Marketing Cloud Growth. So those were great experiences to go through.
Good
sure.
PR for the business as well, right? Being given the stage to talk more about the company, it's great. All publicity is good publicity. So following on from that notion, I'll be cheeky and ask you a quick question. Any commercial benefit to being part of the Pioneer program? Any discounts or extra products you given for free or anything like that?
Well, yeah, I mean, we didn't pay for it while we were piloting it or pioneering it. So that didn't cost us any money. And, when you are speaking at Dreamforce, you don't pay to go there. So, you save some fees and things like that. I'm not at liberty to say any more than that.
But overall, a fair trade-off, I think it's fair to say, right? You took the bit of pain, but overall, your overall experience, you're pretty happy about it.
Yeah, for sure. And Marketing Cloud Growth, just another thing I'll say about it. I have talked a lot about Flow. I'll continue to talk a lot about Flow. It's it uses Flow as the engine to drive the actual email campaigns, right? So instead of a tool built to build email campaigns, you're using Flow. So that's super powerful, right? Anything that you can do with Flow, with great power comes great responsibility. Someone said, and it's you can create records, right? When people are clicking on emails and you receive that feedback, you can automate anything that you would do elsewhere in the platform. You can use marketing engagements as the engine to do that. You compare that to account engagement or Pardot, and there's some things you can do, and I think you can custom develop probably whatever you want to fire as an action from Pardot, but that's coding and so forth. So it's a much tighter, like for example, right? We have people who fill out a Marketing Cloud engagement web form that they want to participate in a webinar. And we have like a swag box that we want to send out to them. Now we can create a sales order in our ERP that's on platform, and manufacturing is like, hey, here's a swag box I have to send to somebody. Got triggered by them clicking on a marketing form. There's approvals and things. So, again, to keep control of things, that's a responsibility everyone has, but that's the power it has.
Just speed and taking out some physical manual, somebody looking it over.
You don't even need to talk to each other, it just happens. So.
Good stuff. Over to you, Maz.
Yep. So, I mean, we're coming up on time. So what's next for Flexo? You're going to keep pushing more and more Salesforce. You can try some other things, Agentforce maybe.
Yeah, I mean, always more. Agentforce is interesting. I've done some, hands-on work with it. I think today it's a little immature. It's slow. It's expensive. Has the advantage, at least from a marketing perspective, of living within the Salesforce trust wall. And I think that's important, but it comes with trade-offs, right? When you, when you use your AI assistant in your phone, ChatGPT or whatever, it starts to build a context and understands you and your preferences and things like that. When you're sending individual packets of communication that are anonymized, I'm not sure that context is built or maintained in the same way. It's not like it gets better at understanding what your brand is. That's all stuff that you pass through instruction. And so that affects the speed, because there's just a lot of bubble wrap around it to make it safe and all that stuff. What I'm looking at right now is connecting directly via, HTTP callouts to the OpenAI API. So, like, for example, in Flow, we can make an Apex action that performs a function. It goes right to ChatGPT or whatever model you want to use, and does work for you very fast and very cheap. So there's security responsibilities that you assume in doing that, and there's compliance risk that's not super relevant to us. But yeah, we can send out from a flow a file to be processed, like a purchase order, right? It can be dissected into CSV text strings that get returned, and then the flow can take those and create records based off the data it receives. It costs like, well, I won't say what I think it costs, but it's a lot cheaper than $2 per conversation or whatever. Now, those are capabilities, that Agentforce doesn't really even have yet. You'd have to build that. I think you could, but I just don't know how fast or how expensive it would be. So we're exploring a lot of options there. But we're all in on AI, just like we were all in with Salesforce. It's you just have to keep your head up and look at what the opportunities are. Just last week we had our twice annual company meeting, and I was spending so much time preparing it with my GPT assistant that I was like, I should just co-present. And so I did. I co-presented with ChatGPT in advanced voice mode. Like, that's crazy. So I was able to ask it questions that it knew was going to be talked about, and it gave answers consistent with the direction I gave it. And then there was other parts that were completely scripted. Like, sorry, this is way out in the weeds, but this is the world I'm thinking in. It's like I did a technical demo or demonstration of Pulse to the company, and I didn't have to remember what I was supposed to say. I didn't have to say it at all. I didn't have to remember where I was supposed to click, because I had already written all that out as a script that I fed to ChatGPT, and then conversationally called upon it. It knew it was time for the demo, and it just started walking me through giving the demo to everybody while telling everybody, so it was cool. It was fun for everybody. Yeah, it's a gimmick, but it was fun, and I would do it again in a second. Like, I might do all my presentations that way. Next time we have a podcast, you guys will be talking to AI Phil. Just give me the script ahead of time.
We'll see. I'm hoping this isn't AI Phil right now, but maybe me and Maz will be out of a passion project here with the co-hosting. We're being replaced by AI. Who knows? But joking aside, that sounds really cool. We'll pick that up offline. But I think that's a wrap. So Phil, thank you.
Sure.
Really appreciate your time. Thanks for sharing a bit more about what you're up to at Flexo Concepts. So many different areas that we wanted to continue to discuss, and hopefully we'll pick it up at a later date. But thank you again. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks for hearing me and hearing our story. It's been a lot of fun. We love to tell what we do, and so thank you guys.
No, thank you.
Thank you. So for our listeners, we hope you enjoyed what you just heard. If you did, please continue to download and subscribe the CRM Success Show for more interviews with phenomenal guests such as Phil on future episodes. Cheers.